Hey book nerds, welcome to my channel. So today I am reviewing one of my goals from 2019. So one of my goals was to read 2018 releases in 2019. The purpose of this goal was that I feel like older books kind of get overshadowed by new releases, and new releases are all like, they're very exciting and they're very great, but there were loads of new releases from 2018 that I never got around to in 2018, so I wanted to read them in 2019 to make sure I didn't forget about them. And this is going to be kind of overviewing how that went. So I've read almost read all 20 of them now, you'll see. I will link the original video down below in case you want to know what those books were. I'm not really going to be discussing any plots in this, and I'm not going to be holding up pictures of them, sorry, just because I don't want to save 20 images again and go through them all. It's not really worth it because I'm talking about them more generally and collectively. But yeah, so watch that video first if you haven't, because it'll give you more context for this one. And yeah, so I read, there were 20 books. 2 of them were technically a DNF, and I read all the other ones, so there was 18 in total that I fully read from start to finish. And I'm going to kind of go from the worst ones to the best ones. In general, I gave them all really good ratings, which is great. And yeah, I was really pleased with this goal because it got me to read some of my favourite books of the year. And it proves to me as well that I'm kind of good at picking up new releases that I think I'll actually genuinely be interested in. But yeah, so I'll start with the 2 DNFs. So the first one is The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. I have read, I tried to read this book so many times. I think I originally tried to read it at the end of 2018. And I've heard lots of mixed reviews about this book. It is a thriller. I'm not going to do plots like I said for most of them, but I will do it for this one for the context. But it's basically a thriller, a sci-fi thriller, and it's about a person who wakes up in a different body and is reliving the same day. I think they're going to do it 7 times. And they have to try and solve who killed this Evelyn Hardcastle person. This is a very hefty book. It's quite dense and quite slow going. I have the audio book of it, I have the physical book, and I think I even bought the ebook as well, all in an attempt to get me to read this book. I got to chapter 7, and this isn't a permanent DNF. I do actually want to read this book, and I think I will, maybe this year, who knows when I'll read it now. But it's just not been the right time for me to read this. So this is a technical DNF, but in reality I will actually read this one at some point. The other one is Blanca y Roja by Anna-Marie McLemore. This was a proper DNF. I got 50% of the way through this one, was not enjoying it at all, and then skipped to the end and was happy that I did so because I didn't really miss anything. And again, this is one of the ones I'll just give a brief plot summary for. It's like a magical realism book about 2 sisters, and one of them's going to be turned into a swan, and they don't know which one it's going to be. This was just really, it was pretty bad. It was just, the writing style wasn't for me. It was very repetitive, and there were 4 narrators, and there shouldn't have been 4 narrators. I feel like there should have been 2, the 2 sisters, and that was all you needed. And I just couldn't get into it. So those 2 were the worst ones. Thankfully, we then jump up to 3 stars. So 3 stars was the lowest actual rating that I gave. And I had 3 of these. I had A Blade So Black by McKinney, Her Pretty Face by Robyn, and Trail of Lightning by Rebecca Roanhorse, I think is the name. It'll all be below in the description. So we have a thriller and 2 fantasy books, and the 2 fantasy books are very similar because they both had really good representation in them, and that's why I was interested in them. But A Blade So Black was just kind of, I don't want to say badly written, but it kind of read like a Wattpad book to me, and that sounds fairly harsh, but I don't mean that the writing was bad, I just meant it was very predictable. It followed very specific story beats, and I felt like I could know exactly where it was going, and I could have written a very similar story myself, which is really sad. That's like an Alice in Wonderland retelling. Her Pretty Face is a thriller. It was very basic. there were no twists in it at all, and not even half twists, just like nothing. You knew exactly where the story was going from the start, and you just watched it play out, and that was really dull for me. And Trail of Lightning I buddy read with Sasha from Well Read and Half Dead. I will link her channel down below. This was... It was okay. There were elements I really liked, but it was very harsh or very dense on the fantasy elements, and there was just something... I did like the characters, but there was just something that stopped me connecting with the story, and I don't know what it was, but it was a little thing. So those are my 3-star ones. We then go to 4-star, and I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 4-star reads, which is great. So I had, let's see, I think I'll group these. So we had thrillers, we had Baby Teeth, we had The Broken Girls, and Broken Things by Lauren Oliver. Those are the thriller ones. We then had a fantasy, Grim Lovelies. We had horror, Meddling Kids. Actually, I gave that 4 stars. I probably bumped that down a little bit, but I think it was probably... Yeah, I gave it 4 stars, so we'll stick with 4 stars. And then we kind of had 2 contemporaries. So What If It's Us, which is a gay romance, and Scream All Night, which is a very bleak contemporary with a horror setting, which is kind of hard to explain, but I class it as a contemporary. It's not a horror book, it's just takes place at a studio where they film horror films. So yeah, so those were all brilliant books. I really enjoyed all of them. We then have the 4.5 stars. So there is Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson, which I love so much. That might be bumped up actually when I reread it. I need to get onto the second book in the series. That's like young adult mystery type story. Sawkill Girls by Claire Legrand. That was amazing. That's horror. Very fantasy based horror, but it was really cool. I loved the writing style, I loved the characters. That was really, really enjoyable. The Cheerleaders, thriller. I recently read that one. That'll be in my December wrap up, my mid-month one. Young adult thriller that had great characterization, really interesting discussion of grief. The Surface Breaks by Louise O'Neill, which everyone on BookTube seems to hate, and I do get why, but Louise O'Neill's one of my favourite writers. She does feminist writing in a very specific way where people argue that it's not feminist, and I do understand that, but it kind of deconstructs, well, it doesn't deconstruct anything. It's like a helpless protagonist in this awful anti-feminist world, and by illustrating how awful this world is and this character and how she can't cope in this world, it kind of illustrates the feminist principles, if that makes sense. That was Little Mermaid retelling thing. I really loved that. Odd One Out, one of the best contemporaries I've ever read. Amazing, just so good in every way. That's one of my favourite books of the year. Spoiler. And then we have another favourite one of my books of the year, which is Sadie by Courtney Summers, which is the only 5-star, but it's fully deserving of that 5-star rating. I loved it. That's such a good... I call it it's a contemporary. It's got young adult thriller elements, but the point of the story is not the mystery. The point is the characterization and the reaction to grief, so I call it like a contemporary. But yeah, so those are all of the books I've discussed now. As you can see, yeah, I had pretty good time with all of these. I'm hoping my 2019 releases ones work out as well, because I was really pleasantly surprised by these. And I would say 2 of them are my favourite books of the year, which is actually really good. And like I said, the lowest rating was 3. So yeah, so hopefully you enjoyed this video and this little wrap up. Let me know if you've read any of these, if you think you're going to pick any of them up now. Probably not based off this video because it's a little bit messy, but like maybe based off what I've said or when you watch my reviews of them. But yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, it helps me out massively, and I hope to see you next time.